Hello everyone. My name is Gusti Balqis and my student ID number is 230204043. And today I would like to present my ICT in language learning midterm. So the first one, we will go into the lesson plan. So, okay, let's go into the general information. So the subject is English. And then academic year 2025, 2026. The phase or class is phase T or grade 8. And then the topic or material is advertisement text, analyzing advertisement critically. And then the language skill is writing. And then the language components are the first one, text structure. There are headlines, slogan, body, contact information. And then there's the second one is language features. So there are persuasive adjectives, action verbs, simple present tense. And then the third one is vocabulary. So such thing as persuasive expressions and product related words. And then there's also critical analysis, which is identifying misleading claims. Next is time allocation. So 2 times 40 minutes, which is 80 minutes, which is one meeting. And then the learning model is problem-based learning integrated with interactive media, which is slides and Bluecut.com. And then the approach is student-centered, inquiry-based, problem-oriented, constructivist, discovery learning, contextual, HOTS, collaborative learning, reflective practice, and multiliteracy approach. And then for the facilities, there are LCD, projector, whiteboard, internet, smartphone or laptop, a slides account, and presentation link, and then also Bluecat.com. And then for the profil pelajar Pancasila, the first one is Berhalak Mulia, second one is Gotong Royong, the third one is Bernalar Kritis, the fourth one is Creative. So now let's dive into the objective and learning outcomes. So the first one is the learning outcome. By the end of the phase, the students independently read and respond to familiar and unfamiliar texts containing predictable structures and familiar vocabulary. They locate and evaluate main ideas and specific information in texts of different genres. These texts may be in the form of print or digital text, including visual, multimodal, or interactive text. They identify the purpose of text and begin to make interference to comprehend implicit information in the text. And then next is the language learning objective. So by the end of the lesson, students will be able to first recall key vocabulary and basic elements of advertisement text, which is headline, slogan, body, text, and contact information, by answering interactive quiz questions with at least 3 correct responses. And then next, explain the purpose and structure of advertisement text by identifying and discussing their components using appropriate English terms. And then next is apply their knowledge of persuasive language and advertisement structure to identify persuasive expressions and misleading techniques in advertisement. And then next, the fourth one, analyze persuasive strategies and potential ethical issues in advertisement through group discussion and guided questions. And then next, evaluate the truthfulness and ethical value of advertisement by expressing and justifying their opinions during class discussion. And then the last one, create and improve or redesign advertisement that is creative, persuasive, and ethically responsible through collaborative group work and present their ideas to the classroom. Okay, so next we're going to go into the learning activities. So the first one, introduction. So the teacher will greet the students and lead a short prayer, and then the teacher checks the students' attendance. And then next is the teacher will display the AHA slides. So it is an interaction pool here. So Sorry, it may take a while. Okay, so the teacher will ask, have you ever seen an ad that felt too good to be true? And then the student will answer one of the questions. There's no right or wrong because it is a pool question, pool voting. Okay, so next, the teacher will show the live result and then the live result of this poll interaction, and then the students will explain, like one or two students will explain why they choose their answer. And then next, the teacher introduced a lesson topic, advertisement text, and ethical issues, and then the teacher will explain their learning objective. So the first one is identify the structure of advertisement, and then there's recognize persuasive and misleading language, and then there's analyze hidden messages and assumption, and then there's evaluate ethical issues in ads, and then the last one is redesign ads to make them honest and responsible. And next, okay, students will ensure their devices are connected to AHA. I think this one is not necessary. Okay, so we go into the core activities. So the first one is problem orientation. So the teacher shows two contrasting advertisement, honest versus misleading. Okay, so this one is the honest one, I think. Yes, it is the honest one. And then this one is the misleading one. So then the students will observe the ads and discuss the differences in pairs or small groups. And then the teacher will ask guiding questions like what message is this ad trying to send, and then which one looks more believable and why, and then what problem do you find in the misleading ads. This one is the misleading. Okay, next, so the teacher will go into the material. But first, before that, the teacher will display a word cloud in the AHA slides and ask question, what persuasive words do you often see in ads? And the students will type one word that they found. Okay, so next, the teacher will go into the materials. The first one is the purpose of advertisement, and then there's the basic ad structure. There's the headline, slogan, body text, image or visual, and then contact information. And then next is the persuasive language. So there are like common persuasive language. And then there are also the examples. And then next, we go into the organizing students for learning. So the teacher will divide the students into small groups. The teacher will divide the students into small groups of 4 until 5 members, and then the teacher will assign clear roles within each group to ensure active participation. So there's leader, reader, device operator, and spokesperson. But this one is for the presentation later on. Okay, after that, the teacher will explain that the students will analyze an advertisement through an interactive look-at quiz. So the teacher will share the look-at quiz link or game code here, the QR. So the students will only scan the QR. Here is the link. So the quiz questions are based on an advertisement. So it's a multiple question quiz. First question is what product is being advertised? And then there are A, Skechers running shoes, B, Skechers shapes up, C, Skechers sandals, and D, Skechers boots. And then the next question is what is the main headline of the advertisement? And then which phrase function as the slogan? What contact information is provided? Which of the following is a persuasive phrase used in this ad? And then which phrase suggests exaggeration or unrealistic results? And then what important information is not shown in this advertisement? And then who is the most likely target audience for this ad? And then based on what you see, is this advertisement honest or misleading? And then the last one, why might this advertisement be considered as unethical? Okay, so and during the activities, the teacher will monitor students' progress through the Bluekit dashboard. And then, like once in a while, the teacher will pause the game and then occasionally discuss the answers. The teacher will also ask like follow-up questions to encourage critical thinking. And then the teacher will also circulate around the classroom to support group discussions and ensure active participation. And then next, we go into developing and presenting work. So after completing the quiz, the students will move to the creative problem solving stage. So each group is asked to redesign the advertisement to make it more honest, clear, and ethical while still persuasive. So I will give them worksheet, the group worksheet. So this one, redesigning an ethical advertisement. And then here is the advertisement. So the advertisement is actually the same as the first one when I display the honest versus misleading ads. So since I haven't identified yet, I will ask the students to redesign this advertisement. Case part one, understanding the advertisement. So what product information? What product is being advertised and then what is misleading or exaggerated in the advertisement, and then give like an example from the ad. And then I will ask a question like, is this advertisement honest, partly honest, or misleading, and why? And then the last one, I will ask the students to redesign the advertisement. Okay, so after completing the task, one or two groups are invited to present their works to the class. So it is optional, so the score will be like a bonus for the group who present their work in front of the class. And during the presentation, the groups will briefly explain what elements in the original advertisement were misleading or exaggerated, and how their redesigned advertisement improves honesty and clarity. Each presentation will last approximately 2 until 3 minutes, and then the teacher will encourage peer feedback by asking questions such as, do you agree with this group's evaluation? Why or why not? And then is their improved advertisement clearer or more honest? And then the teacher will highlight strong reasoning, ethical awareness, and creative ideas from the student. And the next, reflection and conclusion. So the teacher will lead like a short whole class reflection by asking guiding questions. So we go into this one, short reflection. So the teacher will ask questions like, what did you learn about advertisements today? Why is honesty important in advertising? And how can this help you become a more critical reader of advertisement? So the students will type their answer here in the Hasslets. For example, uh, and submit, and then their answer will be displayed in um, LCD of the teacher. Okay, so next the teacher will summarize the key points of the lesson, the structure of advertisement text, persuasive language, and misleading techniques, and then the importance of ethical communication in advertising. And then for the closing, the teacher will reinforce the moral message. Like good communication should always be honest and responsible. And then the teacher will provide positive feedbacks on students' participation, teamwork, and critical thinking during the activities. And then, as homework, the students are asked to find one real advertisement here. So students will be asked to find one real advertisement from the internet, social media, TV, posters, or magazine. And then they will write one short paragraph, 5 until 7 sentences about the advertisement in a paper. And then, so the students will have to explain what product or service is being advertised, whether the advertisement is ethical or misleading, and then why they think so. They will need to give like a reasoning, and then one suggestion to make the advertisement more honest or responsible. And then the submission will be in the next meeting, and it is an individual work. And then, yeah, the lesson will end with motivation and a closing prayer. Okay, so next we go into the assessment. Assessment purpose to measure students' ability to understand, analyze, evaluate, and create advertisement text ethically and creatively through cooperative learning, while also monitoring students' learning process and providing feedback during and after the learning process. And the next assessment techniques and instruments. So the first one is formative assessment. So for the formative assessment, the first one is observation checklist. The focus or indicators is active participation in group discussion, cooperation and role responsibility, and a respectful and responsible behavior. And the evidence is teachers' observation notes. And then the next formative assessment, the technique is questioning. The instrument or tool is oral questions, and then the focus or indicators is understanding of advertisement purpose and structure from C1 until C2, and then the initial reasoning in identifying persuasive or misleading content. The evidence is students' oral response. And then next, formative assessment is activity monitoring. So the instrument is look at quiz, participation, and group discussion. And then the focus is progress in identifying advertisement elements, ability to recognize persuasive language, and emerging ethical reasoning in evaluating advertisement. And then the evidence is teacher observation during the activity. And then the next formative assessment is post-learning follow-up. So the tool the technique is written test or homework. And then the tool is short paragraph, 5 until 7 sentences. And then the focus is the ability to evaluate a real advertisement ethically. And then the ability to explain reasoning clearly. And the evidence is the individual student paragraph. Next, we go into the summative assessment. So first, mandatory summative assessment. The technique is performance based assessment. So the instrument is group product, redesign advertisement. So the product is students collaboratively create an improved and ethical version of the advertisement, including a headline, a slogan, a short product description, and one improvement that makes the advertisement more honest and ethical. And the scoring is that the main group score based on the redesign, advertisement, and group explanation. And then there's the bonus summative assessment, which is optional. So it will be like bonus. The technique is performance, so the oral presentation, and then the instrument, short group presentation, and then the eligibility, which is the groups that voluntarily present their redesigned advertisement. And then there's the scoring, which is the bonus point added to the group product score. And then note groups that do not present are not penalized. And here is the assessment rubrics. For the summative rubrics, the maximum score is 20 points. Here's the criteria. And then there's 1 and until 4. So the score interpretation is 18 until 20 is considered as excellent, and then 14 until 17 is considered as good, and then 10 until 13 is considered as fair, and then less than 10 is considered as need some improvement. And then next, the summative bonus rubrics, which is the group presentation. The maximum bonus is 5 points. So yeah, I think, and then the final scoring formula is that the product score, which is the maximum score is 20, plus the bonus presentation score, if they have, the maximum score is 5. And then in total, there is 25. Here is, I have provided the learning materials, which is the I have slides link here. And then the group worksheet. And yeah, I think that's all for me, sir. Thank you very much.